Hello, everyone. I'm Annie Gibbins, and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success, and what they have learnt along the way. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Memoirs of Successful Women. And today I have the delight in presenting to you Rukshana Triem, who is a former refugee and immigrant from Mozambique who came to the United States in the 1990s. She overcame sexual abuse and became an advocate for parents and childcare providers to support them on their healing journey. She's also the CEO of Women's Lifestyle Coaching, where she helps other women overcome their rough past through her coaching programs. And she's also the founder of Firmina Foundation, a nonprofit that helps build schools in Mozambique and in the future, Malawi and Zambia, Africa. So welcome to the program, Rukshana.
Thank you so much, Annie, for having me. I'm so delighted to be here.
I am so excited about unpacking your journey because it is so interesting and challenging all in one moment, and also that you're a lover of the outdoors, so like I am. So I'm looking forward to hearing about your adventure things on the side as well. So,
Absolutely.
so tell me a little bit about what your business and life looks like at the moment, and then we'll unpack your journey to where you are today.
Yes, so thank you again for having me and creating this beautiful space. I'm so delighted to be here. And my business is a women's lifestyle coaching. So it's a coaching practice. However, how I have set it up under the umbrella of the bridging of the coaching package. I have one-on-one coaching, and then I have a mastermind. And then under the mastermind, I also have nature retreats where I take women out in the outdoors for hikes or just a couple of days for the weekend and just meditate up in nature and disconnect. And then under that, also, I have the Confidence Speakers Catalyst, where I collaborate with my business partner, where we empower women to share their stories on stage. And yeah, and all those little consultation here and there. I believe that all entrepreneurs do a little bit of everything, so they use their gift in all kinds of aspects, so they utilize their, whether it's mom or wife and all the background. So that's mostly my business package, and under there, and then 30% of my business is set up to contribute back to Firmina Foundation, which is a nonprofit I established from Mozambique, but it's established here in Portland, Oregon. But once in a year, I take groups of people to contribute back to build schools on the smaller villages that I grew up in, so that way they have they have a school system where they can learn from.
Oh, I love that heart of yours that wants to give back, and that you're doing that through your own business as an entrepreneur. I totally value that in so many ways. And so, yeah, every person that you see in your business at the moment is also giving back to
Yes.
something that you are very passionate about.
Mhm.
Let's talk about then why is schooling in Mozambique? Why is that so important to you? Why would you start this foundation?
Yeah, so Annie, I believe, in especially in Mozambique and maybe in the developing countries, education is such a big part, and they don't have many resources like we have here in the United States. And they have schools, so most of the schools especially are private or underfunded by the government. So because there's not enough room, the children learn outside under a mango tree, and the teachers are paid. So, and I came from that environment. I lived in Mozambique, I lived in Malawi, I lived in Zambia, and my first experience of writing and learning my letters were smoothing under on the ground, and learning how to write my letters onto the ground, and watching that transformation, the power of writing and reading. So that's my early years. And as I went there every year, I saw that nothing has changed. I mean, it's 20, 35 years later. Most, places has not changed. There is no school. Children are still learning under a mango tree. So I figured that that would be a great contribution. And also, part of that is having my grandmother who always nagged me and saying that you should come back and build a school here.
Yeah.
You should be the one, you have a lot of resources, bring the resources that you have over here and start contributing back to the places that you lived. So she was planting that seed into the mind, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? So that's when, that seed kind of stayed in there, and that's how we got started. So education is very important to me,
Mm.
where I came from, and I feel like that's the hope of the future, especially with the children. As we're looking for the future as the world, we want to see the change, we have to invest in them.
Mm, so true. So you learned under a mango tree, you learned how to write your letters. What was it actually like on the ground on the dirt?
Yes.
No paper, like the whole raw landscape was your canvas to learn. And there was, yeah, much joy in that, but also, yeah, it's pretty hard and pretty incredible for most people from the Western world to imagine. How did you then transition from that kind of learning and education to then when you arrived in the States as an immigrant? What was your journey to there, and how did you respond when you suddenly came out in America and everything was so different?
I, you know, I learned how to write mostly in the tribal languages of the countries that I lived in. So living in Mozambique, I spoke Portuguese, and then living in Malawi, I learned their dialect, which is Chichewa, and then moving to Zambia, I learned Chinyanja. So those are the three countries that we moved. We're kind of like nomads. My parents could not go back to the country that they came from due to the war, so the only hope is moving forward. But when we arrived, this is the third country called Zambia. When we arrived in Zambia, we lived in the refugee camp. So in the refugee camp, and usually there is, whether they help you sustain your life to go back into the same city that you live, finally leave the refugee camp, or you apply for asylum to go to United States. We have three countries: United States, Australia, or Canada, because you couldn't go back to your country.
Yes.
So were very fortunate that we came to United States. So I was 15 years young when I came to United States. So I was, learning English as a second language and learning how to write and adapt. And I'm not going to say it was easy. I think as a 15-year-old, just trying, it's a lot of culture shock, but because I moved from my birth country, Mozambique, then went to Malawi and went to Zambia. I was so used to being adapting and
Yeah.
changing and learning quickly, and I feel like my mind was really set up for that. So I feel like when I was 15, I adapted really quickly, learned the language real quickly, and made friends, and went to the neighborhood activities, get to understand English, the pronunciation, all those things. But I believe that was a gift for coming to United States and adapting quickly and learning for which I believe those tools has helped me
Mm.
as an entrepreneur, other as a philanthropist, to give back into the communities that I serve.
Absolutely. And that's right. You're a very resilient woman, but that's right. Those times of tribulation where that's right. You have to move and you're in war-torn areas. And so the reality is it's not a fun journey. You're constantly moving home, setting up in different countries and having you know, a no sort of grounded area that you would then call home. You're always transient or nomadic, as you described it. But then also then that comes as a gift when you suddenly came to the US when other people may not have moved before. You were like, okay, here's another home and not new opportunity. What do I need to do to adapt? In
Yes,
whole new adventure at 15. Wow.
yes, yes.
In your bio, you talk a lot about being a survivor of sexual abuse. Did that happen in Zambia or was that in the States? And what was your journey there?
That happened about age 10 to age 15, and that was a family member. And it happened, be- it happened in Africa. So, and then it continued happening when I moved here. And I thought, when you grow up in those kind of environments and those experiences, because it's so covered and secretive, it becomes of a normal. not until I came to United States when the girls were talking about certain things and sexual activities, and and I share those experiences, and that's it, that's not normal. So when that happened later on, to realize, okay, so that actually led into me leaving the house, running away from home, and going to get married. And because I was so afraid of all the uncertainties, I didn't know that you were supposed to report. I didn't know what was going to happen to because there's so much fear in it. When you're sexually abused, you feel fear, there's a lot of shame, there's guilt, you feel responsible, because I was the oldest one of 5 children, and I felt responsible of the family, so I was
Yes.
afraid. So leaving the house, running away from home, it really kind of led into a lot of wounds that I didn't know that I was dealing with. It was the sexual abuse, then it was also the trauma of living in the refugee camp, and all of that, leaving the country of war. So that kind of just piled up and added up. But again, I feel that those experiences really, again, shaped me for who I am, overcoming those adversity, understanding, until I was so aware of it. But it took time. It took, mistakes after mistakes, beating yourself up and leading yourself into things that you're not supposed to, until you get to your time in your life and said, okay, I've learned now. What have I learned from this? And then start taking, removing those layers, unpacking those layers, like, okay, this happened because of this, let's go down, this happened because of this. It just makes one thing after the other, like a domino effect.
Yeah. And it is so common, and as a fellow survivor of sexual abuse, that's it. It's sort of, it requires unpacking so many areas where it affects you and finding that right time, and to actually appreciate that, although things have happened, you can actually turn it into a defining who you are now, which is not related to the abuse. It's actually related to all those qualities and strengths that you do have, that you can give back and help others, and be, a citizen who really contributes not only to yourself and your family, but also, for you, women globally, and children globally, in through your orphanage, which is, or not an orphanage, through your school, through your school.
Yes.
How do you involve other people then? Sorry, I'll rephrase that. In your business now with women, coaching women, is it because of your story that you will attract people who feel comfortable with you, or is it actually just through general women's coaching needs? How have you personally
That's
branded your coaching?
it's usually a lifestyle. So it's a lifestyle coaching. I have branded, and I think the audience that comes to me, it's because they have read my book, or they have heard me share my story on stage, or they heard me on a podcast like you, Annie. So usually, so it's kind of pretty broad, and it's, and then we talk about, and then I ask them, I do an intake based on what they need and how I can help them. But I feel like with women, especially, when we have lived through so much, and we have a family, we have overcome so much adversity, I feel we have the resources. And when I because I also worked with families, advocating for families with child abuse as well, so I had a lot of experience as mentoring parents, so that came in all together when I started putting my coaching practice together and helping women. So yes, I've had a few women who were actually abused as well, and I've had women who've never been abused, who just are going through transition, or the children moved out, or now they're retiring, they're trying to find out what's next. So there are different stages. And I also, in the spiritual practice, like you, Annie, is, we align our clients, and they come from everywhere, different
Yes.
paths in our lives, so we really are not attached to one outcome. So whatever, the client comes through, the universe comes to us, we're able to serve them, and we align with each other to be able to be at service.
Mm. What is your biggest joys in your business as an entrepreneur, now, offering so many different opportunities? What do you get the most joy from?
For me, it's like, for when they're able to accomplish that thing that always wanted to do. Like I have a client right now, she's getting ready to launch her first book, and she's been talking about this book for almost 3 years. so, so for her to finally write her story, it's
Yes.
about the story of healing, about trauma and stuff like that. But for them to finally do it and to see that they have overcome that old story of fear that's holding them back, or for them to start that business, or for them to finally find that volunteer program or that passion that they want to contribute back, to be able to see them a year from where they used to be quiet or they didn't want to talk, and now they're sharing their stories on stage, that is very rewarding. Because at the end of the day, we're supposed to share a gift, and when we're able to see them shine, it helps us shine. It makes
Yes.
our heart explode with stars and just makes us shine, feel all good all the way inside out. So that is my greatest moments, to see them shine.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You're perfectly positioned in what you do then, because yeah, that is total joy. What are the biggest challenges working with people then when you're an empowerment coach really, and they got to go through their journey? What are the biggest challenges for you?
For me, I've noticed the biggest challenges is when they want the results quickly.
Mm,
They want it quickly, and they don't realize that, my chapter 11, it's not their chapter 11, it's their chapter 1 or chapter 2, whatever it is.
yeah.
And to be able to know, to be patient with yourself, and that whatever they're doing, the grounding work is going to set them up for next year or 2 years from now. It's all the groundwork and giving the patience for them to work on what they need to work on, habits. And I think as entrepreneurs, we have that syndrome too. We want the results quickly. We forget we want that instant gratification, because we live in a planet where we get the results quickly, or we want something, we send a quick text message, we
Yeah.
send a quick email, we want the results quickly to come back. So I think it's part of the human behavior. But yeah, I think that is a challenge of wanting the results quickly. And the other one is also for them to be able to, some of the thing is they repeat those habits over, and you can see it, and you just have to see them stumble,
Yes.
stumble. You can, like, you want to just pick up the child. It's like you're gonna have to let them go through it, maybe 2 or 3 times. I'm like, here we go again, these are patterns and behavior, coming back to the same thing we did a couple of times. And that's the hard things, because for me, I just want to lift them up and put them where they need to be. But then I realize that human behavior, they need to process through it to get there. Those are my biggest
Exactly,
things.
exactly. As a coach, you can see the patterns and you go, you could stop this now. But also as the learner, as the person being coached, that's right. You have to, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 or more cycles to actually go, yes, I agree. Now I'm seeing a pattern. And then how do I break that pattern? And there's security in that pattern, because it is
Mm-hmm.
what they've always done. So although they don't like it, it is also secure. And so
Yes.
breaking that requires, activates fear and anxiety and stress, because you're then into the unknown, and yeah, and the cycle continues of just stretching a little bit and trusting a new way, which is an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Before you became an entrepreneur, you worked in childcare for many years. What was that time like for you?
That was a fun time because my kids were younger. I was able to go to school with them. I was able to be in class with them. So I was not only their parent, their mom, I was also their teacher. So that was really, really fun. I learned a lot about child development. I learned a lot of, a mom to be patient, not only with my kids, with other people's kids. It was exhausting, now that I reflect back, that I would come home and, my kids were there, and my journey still continued, and I had to take care of them. But
Yeah.
it was exhausting. But I look back, because my kids are so close in age. So I look back and I appreciate the experience. And I feel like those are also resiliency has helped me shape my business to where my business is, because of the hard work that I did in the past.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a big leap of being working in childcare while raising a family to then suddenly setting up your own practice as an entrepreneur, as a woman's coach. What was that process like? Did it take many years, or did you just have a moment and you went, right, that's it. I'm going to back myself and I'm going to start this business.
That's a great question. There was a point, I was not working in childcare practice anymore. I was working with family and advocate, and I hated my job. I hated my supervisor. They gave me They're giving me promises that they give me a raise in 1 year, and then I was there for 2 years, and then I waited 6 months just to get like 28 cents raise, and they never gave it to me. I think I just got really pissed off. So, so it was so I had so much rage and anger. I think it's not only because of the work. I think it's all the things that I was working through that led into that, like my
Yeah.
past. And so I hired a coach, and the coach said, it sounds like you have a lot of problems. You should go work with a therapist first and then come back with me after for 6 months. And that just pissed me off too.
Oh dear.
She said, I can't believe you work with families and you have all this rage and anger and stuff. Like, it was just things it was perfect timing. It was just bottling, was just added up. Stuff from my past was coming in. But then I was done with the therapist, and then I went back to the coach, and then the coach helped me realize that I could use some of that fire to create something. So I was able to build my practice while I was working full time. So I
Yeah.
was driving to work for an hour and a half. So I had this long distance. So I was driving about 3 hours drive per day. So I had those 3 hours to listen to podcasts, those 3 hours to listen to books, and I was listening to some of her recording. So that way, after 1 year, I had finally working to, working, building my business practice, and then, working full time. I had the confidence of, putting a plan together. So I worked with this coach for almost 2 years. So then she helped me put my practice together. And then the first 6 months, I had 6 clients, and 3 of them were my friends. So that really boosted my confidence. This is, I can make money off this. So that gave me confidence to go ahead and put a notice in for my job and say I'm going to be leaving, because I was also doing training other people.
Yeah.
So, and after I quit, and from there, I had no other choice other than work really, really hard, marketing, networking. Like, you learn as an entrepreneur, there's just one job as a becoming a coach.
Yes.
I was taking courses, there was marketing, there was planning, there was strategy, there's social media. I learned it all almost in, 1.5, 2 years prior, but I was working my butt off.
Total
Like
cut off.
any.
That's right. Like we all do. There's so many aspects to the business, and that's it. When you're first starting out, you go, well, I'm going to have to learn them all, and I'm going to have to do them all until I
Yeah.
actually do have that revenue source to be able to offload a few things. So it's a massive learning curve, and there's a lot of moments where you just have to, constantly just keep backing yourself and putting yourself out there, and having clients come on who were your friends. That was definitely a very nice, supportive environment for you.
Yeah.
Well done there. Often they don't pay as much though, so there's a back.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a problem there. And then part of your practice too ended up being taking women on nature retreats. Where does that desire come from?
That desire comes from because I was really overweight, and I was going exercising, and I realized going in nature on longer hikes, it was giving me healing, a lot of trauma from the past. And also, when I would go nature, it would disconnect my thinking process. I would be so zen, I'll be at peace, and then I'll be looking at nature and how beautiful it is to be looking at this tree that is perfectly imperfect. It was bent. You could see that tree that fell down, and then nature was growing, another tree was growing. And I came to appreciate, the nature process, such of a powerful healing process, also for me. And then I saw what it could do for me if I could go for 2, 3 hours on this beautiful hike and have a good sweat. And I come home, my life, I had so much energy to
Hmm.
give to whatever. So I said, this is what women need, because we are at home. We are always on. We're
Yes.
constantly on. We need to be off. So I said, if I realize that I'm going out in nature for 3 hours, I'm off, women can do the same thing. So I saw the healing power of that. And then I started offering it for a community for free. And then that's how that free led into people asking, can you coach me? Can you mentor me? I said,
Yeah.
oh, I can't just do this for free. I can actually get paid from it. So
Mm.
I enjoyed the process. Then I was able to collaborate with a few women here in Portland, Oregon. We host a retreat twice a year where we take women out in nature, or women backpacking, or just at a retreat center where somebody else prepares a meal, and we do all the practices of coaching, focusing on gratitude, focusing on solitude and meditation, and going out in nature and leaving your phone at home, all those simple things that we know. And we're doing that, so that I implemented that into my practice. So now I hike every weekend. So because I take women every weekend, we go hiking. It's not only pleasurable for me, but it's pleasurable for everybody, and we have a great time.
Oh, so love nature like you. I love the natural endorphins, and I love the break and the time away, and the good quality conversations you get when
Mhm.
you're out. Yeah, that's right. Out there on a trail, and you actually just have time to be, and time to talk with other people in a personal way, when often people are so rushed,
Yes.
so you'll only get little snippets of conversation, and suddenly when you're out there, on a big hike, it's like, oh, it's just walk and talk. And then sometimes just nothing, just, that's right. Activating gratitude and appreciation of just, yeah, natural beauty and the feelings that it gives you. And it's healthy. It's so good.
Yes. Yes.
So I do
Yes.
love that. Totally. So what do you define as a successful woman then? You've had a very interesting journey and you are a successful woman. What does success look like to you?
So success to me is having inner peace, the ability to have inner peace, and you're okay with having that calmness with you. If you're able to have that inner peace, calmness, and self love, I feel that's successful, because when we have that, we can focus on many things. So it really depends on anybody. But for me, I realized, coming from that traumatic background, all the adversity that I faced, how disturbing my thoughts are were, how my body was so disturbed from all the chaos around that I was surrounded with, realizing the shift that I made with having inner peace, that is success. Because when I was able to take care of my mindful practices, inner peace, I was able to focus on my health. I was able to focus on serving others, and on now, taking groups of people to Africa and building the nonprofit. So it all went back to that inner peace and self love.
Hmm. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
And how do people find you? How do people reach out and get your coaching, or how do they also contribute to what you're doing with your nonprofit?
So I'm really open on. I'm very on social media. I'm very active on social media. So people find me on Facebook. They find me on Instagram, and they find also when they attend workshops or conferences. Because I do public speaking, like you, Annie. So that's how usually they find me. And then with my nonprofit, it's called Firmina Foundation, and it's Firmina Foundation. And the best way to support is you can donate, or actually, we're hosting a conference. It's virtual. It's November 14th, and it's a fashion show, half conference, where we're showcasing some bright colors of African prints that some of the students that made at the trade school in Africa, that was shipped here to Portland, Oregon. And we have a variety of women from ethnic backgrounds who are going to be showcasing a fashion show, and we're going to put them some tribal face painting, and it's all pre-recorded, and they're doing the fashion show. And then the funds, all the proceeds of the fashion show will go towards the Firmina Foundation. That's another way to support. And you can also go on Firmina Foundation. You can donate, or you can also encourage you to come and travel with us. We travel every year to Africa, and yeah, there's many ways to support to support the school.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love that. And for those of you who are listening in, that's right. If you'd love to try something really different and be involved in just a great humanitarian work, that's right. Reach out to Rukshana, and once we're past COVID, we'll be
Yes.
able to travel again. The opportunity to go and visit a school and see, or add value and be able to help and teach and share with people, and also just appreciate the what you can do to make young people's lives so much easier, and
Yes.
have an appreciation of that by simple products and goods that we use all the time, that we just often really value. And suddenly when you arrive at a school and the kids are out there, that's right, as you say, under the mango tree, learning to write in the dirt and because they may not have those other resources, it certainly does give you a very different aspect of life and a worldview. And I think that's so wonderful that you offer people that opportunity to come with you. So all of your details will be on my podcast platform. And it's been an absolute delight listening to your journey and unpacking, what has led you through moments of real, hardship and adversity to become a woman who is, so impressive in her own right, doing her own thing, giving back to those in your work, in your area, and also overseas. Beautiful to introduce you to my podcast listeners today.
Thank you so much, Annie, for having me. It was such a delight. And I love it because we're like 2 continents away. This makes it really exciting.
Right. We're being all over the world. It's really great.
I love this. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me. So
it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes and, of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.